Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we got realities of English life that blew my mind away. More culture shocks. And this is from the Hickson Diaries, who I've reacted to before, and I definitely appreciate her videos and her insight on what it's like being an American and moving all the way across the pond. So, with that being said, we're going to hop right into this. Original link in the description. Here we go.
Hey everybody! Today we're going to talk about things that I've learned while living here in England that absolutely blew my mind. So the drinking age, it kind of varies depending on whether you're just consuming it, you're purchasing it, or you're serving it. So we're going to go through a little bit of that just so that you guys have a better understanding of why it blew my mind. Okay, so the drinking age is 18 in order to buy, sell, or consume alcohol, technically. But if you're 16 or 17 and you're having a meal in an establishment like a pub with people that are over 18, they can buy you a drink. It has to be limited, I believe, to beer, cider, and wine. And you can consume that while you're on the premises, but you cannot purchase it yourself. And you can technically consume alcohol in the privacy of your own home between the ages of 5 and 16 at the parental discretion. It is frowned upon, obviously, to give a 5-year-old.
She just said a 5-year-old can purchase alcohol. I was not expecting to hear that at all. I can't imagine a 5-year-old going to the store but at the same time, I mean, I guess they must be some responsible 5-year-olds. That's all I'm gonna say. You know, they must really be listening to their parents.
16 at the parental discretion. It is frowned upon, obviously, to give a 5-year-old drink here. They're not that lax when it comes to drinking, though I know a lot of people might not realize that. I'm still baffled by the fact that you can technically give your 7-year-old a little bit of brandy or something. That's just really, really strange to me. That would never fly in America at all.
That won't fly in America, but Americans, they definitely do a lot of things that they kind of just it's like they, I guess they try to blind you with the fact of, well, this is the law. This is so it's like a gun will be in a kid's hand for example, you know, and there's a lot of people that'll show their kids gun safety when they're young. That I'm sure that could be frowned upon in other places too. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it seems like everybody kind of has their own way of looking at things from their own moral standpoint based off of just their culture a little bit. So it just differs because someone else might look at it like, whoa, you're putting a gun in a 6 years old hands. Like, no, he has no. You get what I'm saying? So it's like I feel like everybody kind of has their own thing where they kind of look at each other and like, what, you know? But yeah, I could be wrong, but that's how it seems.
And here in England, there's betting shops everywhere. So you can go and bet on a football game or a rugby game. I don't know. I believe the Olympics are going on right now, so I believe you could go and bet on the Olympics as well. There's dog race tracks everywhere. There's horse racing tracks in a lot of locations as well. It's a really big gambling culture, actually. Even to the point where if you go into most pubs, there's at least one, if not several, what they call fruity machines. So they're basically like slot machines like you would find in Las Vegas or Atlantic City in America, where you would just put in some pound coins and you just play you play the lottery basically and while you're having a pint with your mates. In America, gambling is allowed, but in very certain instances and is regulated very heavily in America. It is really strange to me that it's such an embraced pastime here in England, only because I come from a culture where it's so taboo and it's so frowned upon, and it's regulated so heavily. And I feel like it might, like the drinking culture, might actually create a bigger allure to gambling in America. I love to gamble, so this is actually not good for me because I'll gamble my rent away if I'm allowed to. Luckily, I've learned a little bit of self-control in my older age, and I don't actually frequent the betting shops or anything like that. Also, luckily, I don't really know how they work, so that is something in my favor. But the gambling culture here in England did take me a little bit to get used to the fact that it's so accessible and it's just such part of everyday life that people don't even realize it's there most of the time.
I worked with a girl who was like addicted to gambling really, really badly.
I love this law. I absolutely adore that you can drink in public here. I don't really partake in it that much, to be honest with you. You would think with the amount of commuting that I do and the amount of walking that I do, that I would partake in it a little bit more, but it's really just because I'm not that big a drinker or anything like that. But I do love the idea of Saturday or Sunday and just like going to the local shop, grabbing something to drink, and just being able to walk home and drink it without anybody having to stop you, without anyone giving you a hard time, even getting dirty looks. You know, even as a culture, it's not frowned upon in any way. I love that. I think it's fantastic, and I definitely think it's something that would help America relax a little bit more if they adopted it. People in England are very passionate. People in England are very much more emotional than you would think they are, especially when you go by the stereotype. But it's not that they're not emotional, it's not that they're not passionate about their families, and it's not that they don't have their own sensitivities. It's more that it's strategically placed. Like they know to not get offended by a joke that's a generality and it's not specific towards them. And they know that there's always issues with family life, and you can always make fun of the missus or make fun of the husband, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you have a negative view of your personal relationship and things like that. And their patriotism, coming from a country where the patriotism is shoved down your throat at a very early age, and you almost are considered anti-American if you don't wave a flag on the 4th of July. I expected to not see anything really here in England, but when for example, the king got coronated, there was British flags everywhere. When England was getting really, got to the finals of the Euros, there's English flags everywhere. And here now, the Olympics are on right now in France, and a lot of people are rooting for Great Britain, and a lot of the Commonwealth countries too. And you see it when you just see it come out in these big moments, and it is a big momentum rather than having it come on all the time 24/7. They're very strategic in how sensitive they are. If they really feel offended or they really feel like you crossed the line, they will tell you, but for the most part they'll try to take it as a laugh. And they're just extremely passionate about the things that they are very, very passionate about, particularly their culture. If I've learned this the hard way, they are very protective of the English culture, and they will bitch and moan and complain about everything, even the monarch. And they're not necessarily royalists, and they'll complain about the monarchy and everything like that. But if you, as a foreigner, say anything about it, you better make sure you're in good company, because they will jump on you for that and say it's not your, just look at your country, blah, 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 things like that. So they are very protective of their culture, and they're very protective of the things that they love. It's just not something that's out in the forefront of everybody's life 24/7 like it is in America.
Role of the
No, it's a
monarch.
constitutional monarchy. Monarch doesn't have any official political or executive role in running the country. They are the sovereign head of state, and they're the head of the Church of England, absolutely. But Parliament is there as the elected body that represents the people, and they actually have to pass all of the laws and things like that. However, if a new party takes power, a new prime minister is appointed, as happened recently here in England, they actually have to go to the monarch to get permission to take that position, and they have to have regular meetings with the monarch in order for the monarch to be aware of what's happening in the country and what the plans are for the country. Also, if they go to war, they need the armed forces in any way, they have to actually ask the monarch's permission to use their army, because technically it's the monarch's army. But a really, really important function that the monarch actually does have is that they do have the ability to dissolve parliament. They think that parliament is losing their way and not doing what is in the best interest for the country, or the people are uprising thinking that the parliament is not representing them properly. The king can step in and dissolve parliament and take power back over and revamp the whole parliamentary system. That to me is incredible. I didn't realize that. I thought it was more of just kind of like, the king and queen were just kind of there to as tradition, and we're just kind of there to oversee maybe some like charitable and commonwealth, foreign things, but not really getting it so involved in domestic politics and things like that. But it seems like they actually have a lot more influence in what happens within the country and the Commonwealth countries as well. I kind of like that, because I do think that there is strength in not being overly overt in what your power really is. But there is a check and balance with the people and with Parliament, so you can't have supreme and complete control. I like that balance of power. Coming from America, we're all about balance of power, not one entity having absolute power over anybody. So I think that that's a good system, especially considering that they've had a monarch for what? I don't know, thousands, tens of thousands of years probably. Not tens of thousands of years. They've had a monarch for thousands of years. So I think it's a good system to really keep the monarch in place, because it is some part of the English identity and part of how the country has evolved and become the modern England that it is, and also showing that the country is progressing and is a republic and representative of the people in a lot of ways, and the will of the people will be recognized, and nobody will have a supreme power. I think that that's actually a really good balance of power between the two. There you go, guys. Those are the things that blew my mind about living here in England. I hope you liked the video. Hit that like button if you can, and I'll see you in the next one.
So out of everything she said, the main thing that really blew my mind, the 5-year-old alcohol part. I'm not gonna. That's pretty unheard of. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like when you talk to a lot of people who are old school, they'll tell you, at a very, very young ages in America, they were like smoking cigarettes and drinking alcohol. So I know, like, back in the day, they were definitely doing some stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong, even now, but you just don't, like, that's extremely frowned upon. It would never be like legal, right? I can never say never, because so much stuff is getting legalized. There's so much be going on with the laws that, man, you really don't know what can or cannot happen, right? So wild, right? I'm not even gonna go into some of the stuff that I do see that blows my mind in America. That would be a whole nother conversation. But yeah, other than that, it wasn't really too much that really like blew my mind like that I think I would be like really shocked by. Um as far as the patriotism, and I mean, I feel like that's most places they would be protective when they hear someone who's pretty much an outsider talk down on where they're from. I feel like that pride would kick in for most places. I'm sure someone who's from just over here ain't gonna cross over somewhere else and start talking down on them. They're gonna feel offended. Like, they grew up there. That's their place. You know what I'm saying? It's like when you have that brother or sister. It's like you could say what you say to them or with your other brothers about, you know what I'm saying? Like, y'all can, but when somebody else come and, yeah, you get super protective because that's your brethren. So that makes sense. But with that being said, that was an awesome video as usual. Realities of English life that blew my mind. She definitely, the Hickson Diaries is the channel, and she definitely brings a lot of information. With that being said, original link will be in the description, and I'll be back with more soon. If you want more videos like this, definitely make sure to hit that like, that subscribe, and that notification bell. Much love, yeah.